Welcome back, folks, to episode 188 of Hashtag AskGSM here today for July 5th, 2017. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you enjoyed your Independence Day yesterday if you're an American. If not, I hope you enjoyed your Tuesday. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed SmackDown last night. A really good show from start to finish, I thought, which is rare for these holiday shows. Usually the 4th of July shows, the Christmas shows, Halloween shows, they're not that great. They just kind of phone it in. But I thought last night's show for SmackDown was quite good. But enough about SmackDown for right now. We do have great Balls of Fire. Yes, that is still a WWE pay-per-view name, believe it or not, this coming Sunday, which actually looks like a promising show on paper. There's a lot of matches I'm looking forward to, even Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman, the main event for the Universal Championship between Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar. A lot of good matches on the card, so we'll be talking all about that show. A lot of questions pertaining to the pay-per-view. A lot of questions in general, probably just as much, if not more, than last week. I did run long last week, a lot longer than I intended to, at an hour and a half. I think it was exactly an hour and a half, which was not planned at all. I just saw it later on, like, oh shit, we actually went a full 90 minutes, which is ridiculous. It's not the norm, though. Don't think that's the norm. I do not have too much time today to record a long episode. I got to record Wrestle Rant Radio a little bit later on, so I'm going to try to keep it as short as possible. Maybe not like half an hour. We can't do that with 3.5 pages worth of questions. But I just can't go as in depth with the questions as I normally do. But before we get started here, per usual, if you want to send in a question, please do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, be sure to drop a comment on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. Let's get started here with Rusty Rages regularly from YouTube. This is kind of pertaining to what I talked about a week or two ago. Why do you think Lucha Underground tapes their stuff so far in advance? It's either a cost-cutting measure. I mean, that's why TNA does it, or GFW Impact, whatever the hell they're calling themselves this week. That's why they do it. That's why NXT does it, because they can't afford to go live every week. Lucha obviously is a bit different because it's not a real promotion, so to speak. It's more of a television show. They're not going to go live every week. I mean, it'd be amazing, but they're not going to. Not only do they not go live, they tape their stuff literally a year in advance. When they announced Season 2, they weren't really sure whether there would be a Season 2 in late 2015, but once they announced that, and later on that year, they immediately started taping, or was it? Yeah, it was 2015. They immediately taped Season 2 and Season 3 at the same time, because once they got the green light for Season 2, they got the green light for Season 3 too. Now there's really no idea whether there's going to be a Season 4, whether the show's making any money. People have no idea what's going on, which kind of sucks, because the show's great. I mean, it was kind of... The quality kind of fell off in Season 3, but it got a lot better in the second half, and it's been pretty good so far with the tournament stuff. So I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes from here. But, yeah, so that's why they do it. I guess they just want to save money and stuff, and it's a television show. I mean, sometimes television shows tape very far in advance. But it's different, though, with wrestling, because you never really see shows taped this far in advance, because people can get hurt, they can leave the promotion. But in Lucha's case, I guess they really can't, because they're under a contract where they have to stay with Lucha. They can't wrestle with any other promotion, like on pay-per-view and shit. Like Ricochet can't go to WWE or Ring of Honor and wrestle on TV until his Lucha dates have run out, which I don't think they have yet as Prince Puma. So that's why they do it. And, I mean, they also didn't know when the episodes would wrap up on television. I mean, they taped this content literally over a year ago at this point. And I think they probably thought it would wrap up maybe 6 months ago. But they took that huge-ass break, like a 4 or 5 month hiatus. They came back in May. Now this stuff may not wrap up until late 2017. Because they taped so many episodes for Season 3. Which, I mean, it gives them more time if they're trying to figure out what they're doing for Season 4. But yes, I do wish we were getting fresher material. I mean, the spoilers for this season have been online for well over a year now. It's kind of annoying, but if you could stay away from it, the show is still fresh and fun for you. Prince5835 from YouTube, why can't WWE come up with creative motivations during feuds anymore? Sometimes I don't feel the need to see two wrestlers face each other again and again with no real reason except they have good matches together. I was literally saying the same thing in my Raw review on Monday when it came to Cedric Alexander and Noam Dar. Yeah, the matches were good, they're decent, they're well wrestled, but like, why do I care to see the same two guys facing off every single week? We've literally had these two going at it since the start of 205 Live in November. It's friggin' July. Like, Alexander was off on the shelf. He was out on the shelf for, 2 months or so? They were feuding prior to that point, and they're feuding now. It's ridiculous. Just move on. No one cares. Again, the matches are decent, but you get to a point where you don't really care about the quality of the matches. If there's no motivation, determination for the two guys to be going at it, there's no purpose, then who the hell's going to care? If there's no ending outcome, there's nothing to be won beyond the beyond championships or whatever, a number one contendership spot, then no one's really going to care. I mean, it's always important to drag out your feuds, maybe not as long as possible, but like maybe for 2 or 3 months over the course of a few pay-per-views. But beyond that, if there is no real reason for people to be fighting, then why do they expect fans to care about those wrestlers? So I do agree, they don't really come up with great motivations for feuds other than, they need to be feuding for 3 pay-per-views, which is fine, and they have decent matches, but why are they feuding? You need to come up with new reasons as to why they're, engaging in this brawl. And the thing is, it's like with Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar might be the exact opposite. Their feud's been so amazing, but there's a decent chance it could be a one-and-done type situation. They could have their match on Sunday, Brock wins, and that's it. Which is ridiculous, considering how strong the feud has been, in my opinion. Probably Brock Lesnar's best feud since coming back to WWE. Now putting that over the Cena feuds, the CM Punk feud, which I thought was great. A lot of those other feuds that I thought were really, really well done. This feud has been awesome. We'll see how the match is on Sunday. I expect it's going to be good, but it's really weird how we could get him. I mean, again, I'm kind of jumping to conclusions here, but it's weird how we could get a feud that good, that hot, and then they cut it short after only one match. So I do agree they should get more creative with why feuds are still going on and why people are feuding to begin with. His next question, do you think with how PC the society is nowadays, it's challenging for writers to come up with interesting storylines and harder for wrestlers to say certain things in their promos without offending people? It goes back to the same thing. It's like the same tired trope, the self-fulfilling, what is that, prophecy or whatever, in regards to, the product won't be good if it's not PG-13. For PG-14, whatever. It's going to suck if it's PG. That's not exactly true. Just because you're not saying tits and ass and in your promos and shit and whatever, you don't. It should make it. Yes, it should make it more challenging for people to get over. That's the exact purpose. And if anything, I prefer the PG rating over the PG-14 rating. That's going to sound ridiculous, but it challenges these guys to go out there and to get a reaction, to get the people to hate them, without swearing at them and calling them assholes or, flashing their boobs or whatever for the women, all that other shit. Like, that's such a cheap way of getting a reaction. That I thought anyway. Again, that's purely my opinion. You guys know my thoughts in the Attitude Era. Not that I hated it, just not my cup of tea. But I think it makes it harder for people nowadays to get heat, and it goes back to what RJ asked me a few weeks ago in regards to how should people get heat. If they're not cool heels or whatever, it's really, really hard. If they're not saying boo me because my skin color, whatever, you got to get creative. I mean, you look at Kevin Owens, the guy's friggin' entertaining as all hell, but he finds ways to get people to boo him in his promos. I mean, again, trashing the city, the local city that you're in, is a pretty basic way of doing that, but beyond that, trashing the fan favorite or doing this or doing that and beating the living holy hell out of him. Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano did it to perfection at TakeOver Chicago. People loved DIY, but people were so heartbroken when they broke up, and Ciampa was the most hated guy in the entire world when he beat the crap out of Gargano because he's such a lovable character. Gargano, that is. So, again, you just got to find ways to elicit heat, do it the right way, push the right buttons of the fans. And that goes back to what your question is. I'm kind of tying the two questions together, an old question and a new one, in regards to you shouldn't have to. I mean, it's not about offending people. That's not really the issue. I mean, there's some stuff, that's just pure pandemonium. It's just dumb. It's not about offending people. It's just stupid. Like the whole CM Punk, Paul Heyman thing with Jerry Lawler about 4 or 5 years ago when he feigned a heart attack. That was right after Jerry Lawler had his heart attack. That's not offensive. That's just tasteless. That's just stupid. That was just dumb. Like the LeVar Ball thing on Monday when he said beat that N-word's ass in the Miz TV segment. It's not about offending people. That's just dumb. We shouldn't even have to put up with that kind of shit on TV. You shouldn't have to allow that kind of stuff in order to get a reaction. That's just dumb. I know that wasn't planned, but you know what I'm saying. So it doesn't matter how PC the society is, which is true to an extent. Society is much more politically correct than it has ever been for the most part. But that shouldn't, change the fact that wrestling needs to come up with new and creative ways to either entertain people, get people to hate you if you're a heel, and say certain things in your promos. That shouldn't, I know it kind of limits you in terms of what you can say. Stone Cold Steve Austin would not be the same Stone Cold today as he was 20 years ago. But again, it's not about that. You just find new ways to evolve with the times and find new ways to get under the skin of fans without offending them. That is entirely possible in today's day and age. His next question here. Last week you mentioned how WWE predicted the future. They did so back in a March 2008 WWE Magazine issue. They talked about WrestleMania dream matches like Hulk Hogan versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, GBL versus Triple H, MVP versus The Rock, and Victoria versus Beth Phoenix. None of those happened except for two, Edge versus Chris Jericho and Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker. What do you think about this? So, of all those matches, let's see, Hogan and Austin, I think, was planned to happen at one point. I know there's been the whole rumor about WrestleMania 18. I'm not really sure whether that's true or not, whether Hogan and Austin was slated for that show before they changed it to Rock. My understanding has always been that it was always supposed to be Rock and Hogan at WrestleMania 18. And then I had heard that there was a chance that it could have done it for WrestleMania 25. I had always thought, again, it was supposed to be Hogan and John Cena, because by that point, Stone Cold Steve Austin was well past retirement. It was 2009. He had retired 6 years earlier. People were still holding out hope for one more match, and he was teasing it, but it wasn't going to happen. If it didn't happen there, it's never going to happen. It was never going to happen, so I think they had planned, like on a few occasions, to try to do that match, but nothing ever really came of it. So it is disappointing we never got the match, but just the timing never really worked out. JBL versus Triple H. At WrestleMania, no, the match did happen. It probably happened in the Attitude Era too, but I remember watching a Raw from 2008, like just recently in the last couple of months, and they had a match on Raw. So the match has happened before. But even then, Triple H and JBL, like that's... When they predicted that in 2008, I mean, JBL had just come out of retirement. This is not the JBL of 2004 or 2005, when he was at the peak of his, heel push. Like this, that was kind of like the watered-down JBL that had feuds with CM Punk and Rey Mysterio, and was having okay matches, but he was not getting the same type of heel heat, the same type of push he was 5 years earlier. So that's not even a WrestleMania caliber match to begin with. MVP versus The Rock was never a WrestleMania match. Again, by March of 2008, MVP was still a very good heel. I think by that point he was still the United States champion. Rock had not returned. He would not return to the company for another 3 years. I guess I kind of get the Miami connection. They're both from Miami, and MVP is kind of a high roller. I could see that being a decent feud in like a SmackDown versus Raw video game. But in reality, I mean, if you're going to bring back The Rock for a dream match, The Rock and John Cena was the dream match. That happened. MVP versus The Rock was never a dream match. That was never going to happen. That's not really a dream match. It's a cute little one-off you do on a video game. It's not a WrestleMania dream match. And MVP was never a big deal anyway. He was an upper mid-carder at best. I really like MVP. He could have been a world champion maybe at one point early on in his career, and maybe in like 2007 or so. But he was never going to be like future world champion. So therefore, a dream match with The Rock was never really just that, a dream match. And Victoria versus Beth Phoenix was, again, I don't really understand them calling that. I mean, this is WWE Magazine. I mean, they're just going to call Yoshitatsu versus JTG a dream match and then get away with it. It's their own fucking magazine. Victoria versus Beth Phoenix. What's interesting about that was that Beth Phoenix, I think, or am I mixing this up? That she debuted as part of the Mickie James versus Trish Stratus feud. And I think Victoria injured her, and Beth Phoenix was out for like a year or so, I think, with the jaw injury. So maybe that's why, I don't know if they referenced that in the article or not, that Victoria put her on the shelf. And then by the time she came back, Victoria was on SmackDown, Beth Phoenix was on Raw, and they never really crossed paths because Victoria left the company in early 2009. So, again, not really a dream match. The match would have been good, but I'm not like, oh man, I'm so disappointed we didn't get to see that match. I really can't say that about any of the matches they mentioned, other than, I mean, Edge, Jericho, Michael Staker happened, but I can't really say that for any of the matches except for Hogan and Austin. And his last question here, do you play any mobile games? If you do you play anything WWE related? I really don't. Again, like I said last week or the week before, I don't play video games just because I don't have the time. With mobile games, I don't know. I've never really been a big mobile game person. When I got my first iPhone about 7 years ago at this point in 2010, I would play some stuff. I would play, like, I don't know, air hockey and pinball and shit on my phone. But beyond that, never really anything super extensive. I actually did play the early incarnation of the WWE Supercard game when it first came out in, like, late 2014. I remember it, and it still is. I remember it being all the rage when it came out in, like, the summer of 2014. I hadn't gotten it yet. And then I downloaded it in like September of that year. And I played it for a good maybe month or two. And I quickly lost interest. And I had the game on my phone for literally like 2 years before I finally deleted it because I never played the damn thing. But yeah, I don't really play mobile games either. But yeah, for stuff WWE related, I know they had an old SummerSlam mobile video game from years ago that I downloaded for like a week. And then I deleted it. The Supercard game was probably the closest I came to downloading a WWE mobile game. And it was cool. And a lot of people still play it even 3 years later, which is great. But I don't have the Immortals game. I don't really play. I'm not a huge video game guy. I don't know. It's not only the time thing, but even if I do have time, I'd rather do other stuff like read a fucking book or something than play a mobile video game. But again, that's just me, to each their own. Not saying it's a bad thing. I just don't really. It's not my cup of tea. And what was the other thing? I did actually download. Not that it was really a game. I thought it was worth mentioning. I did download the WWE emoji app about like 6-7 months ago for like $2. I used it maybe twice and then I deleted it. I think I might still have it. I don't think I do. I never used the damn thing. I thought it was cool. They had WWE emojis, but I never used it, so I just deleted it. Emmanuel A from YouTube, his question was about that 97 question from last week. He says, I do consider WrestleMania 14 as the starting point and WrestleMania 17 as the end of the Attitude Era. And it's actually because of business reasons. When I hear about the Attitude Era, it's about business was just booming. It's about how business was just booming. In contrast, when I hear about the New Generation Era, it's about how business was not all that booming, hence why it's known as the Dark Ages of the WWF. So simply put, that's why I consider 93 to 97 all as part of the New Generation. Is this reasoning fair? Yeah, for business reasons, I get it. I mean, again, it's all subjective. There's really no start and end date of the Attitude Era. I think we can all agree, I do agree with you, as many people I'm sure do as well, that WrestleMania 17 was the end of the Attitude Era. The beginning is where it kind of gets, where the waters are muddied a bit. People say late 96, people say 97, like early 97 with the Bret Hart promo on Raw in March of that year. Some people say the Montreal Screwjob in November of that year. People say early 98 when Austin won the championship at WrestleMania 14, as you had said. So, yeah, I mean, I could see why you would split it up for business reasons. Again, there's really no right or wrong. For eras, there's no, definitive start date and end date. It's really what people, the labels that fans give to those respective eras. Like, I'll get a question a little bit later on that I'll talk about like the PG era and the new era. Like, I never really thought we left the PG era. Like the PG era, I guess you could say, started when they went PG in July of 2008. But when did it really end? Like, what, WrestleMania this year, WrestleMania last year, when we had the brand split? Like, it's all subjective, really. It's all, the labels that fans give to them, but whatever. It shouldn't really be about eras. It should just be about putting on a good product. But I see what you're saying, but I would still say that, for me, my Attitude Era starts in 1997, but I would not argue with you that much about it for you saying that it starts in 98 for business reasons. His next question. I watched Great American Bash 2006. Not a good show, but I did like the Regal Finlay match from that pay-per-view. The crowd didn't, but it was something different, at least in WWE, as it's a heel versus heel match where neither wrestler tries to be a babyface for the night and instead tries to out-heel each other. And was there one wrestling match that you liked, but the crowd didn't? I remember that match. That was a very good match. I remember very little, if anything at all, from that pay-per-view. I watched it and reviewed it for WrestleRant 3 years ago. I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things. John started watching wrestling. My good friend John has been here on the show multiple times, as you guys know. He started watching wrestling 2 years before me in 2006. I'm sure he likes the year because that's when he started watching, so he has fond memories of that year. For me, watching it back, there's not really all that many, if anything, any great shows like in 06 that I could point to that I really, really liked that I watched on the network. There's not a lot of great storylines or feuds or matches. It's just kind of there. But I'm sure he would say the same thing about 2008, which I fucking loved and I thought was amazing. But then again, I started watching in 2008, so I'm biased. I'm very, I'm very subjective in that respect. But anyway, regardless, what we were talking about here. Yeah, heel versus heel matches, blah, blah, blah. One match that I liked that the crowd didn't. For me, not a heel and heel match, but Daniel Bryan and Wade Barrett from SummerSlam 2011, I thought was a great match. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Ask John, too. He'll tell you the same exact thing. Very, very underrated match. I love that show. I love SummerSlam 2011. But that match was great because it was before Daniel Bryan adopted the Yes gimmick. And Wade Barrett, he was well past this push as part of the Nexus by that point. So neither guy really knew how to play off the crowd. They had a great wrestling match, which is why I thoroughly enjoyed the bout. But the crowd wasn't really all that engaged because, for one thing, again, they were still early on in their development. They didn't really know how to interact with the crowd at all. And then, of course, Daniel Bryan would go on to become one of the most over guys in the entire company that we've seen in many, many years. And then Wade Barrett would debut the Bad News Barrett gimmick, and the crowd loved that, or hated it, depending how you look at it. And also, the feud had just, barely been exposed on SmackDown. Their match was announced on SmackDown 2 days before the pay-per-view. So I could not blame anyone at all for saying they didn't care about the match. But I thought the match was great, again, that the crowd didn't really care too much for, but I thought it was awesome. And Wade Barrett winning clean was the cherry on top of it all. His next question here, what specific WCW pay-per-views have you heard about? I mentioned 2 Halloween Havocs and the utter insanity Hulk Hogan was up to. And I think me or someone else, I'm not sure, asked about these sold-out pay-per-views when Jason was a guest. What else do you know about their pay-per-views? Really nothing at all. I know, of the pay-per-views, Great American Bash and Starrcade and all the other ones sold out. Hog Wild. I've seen one WCW pay-per-view in full, the very, 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 very first one from 83. It might have been Starrcade 83. It might have been something else. I don't remember. I reviewed it, watched it 2 years ago. I know you're probably asking this because I will start watching and reviewing the WCW pay-per-views for WrestleRant. Hopefully at some point in the next couple months. I'm going to do the NXT reviews first, and then I'm going to start doing the WCW shows. So I don't really know too much about them. I know specific moments, like the Poke of Doom, and Vince Russo being a prime part of those pay-per-views later on, and all that other shit, and all the other terrible gimmick matches they were up to in the early 2000s and whatnot, in the late 90s. So I know of specific moments. I don't know too much about the specific pay-per-views themselves, let's say Sold Out 99 or whatever, you know what I mean? So I'll talk about that when I review the pay-per-views for WrestleRant. I don't know whether I should start at the very beginning and do every pay-per-view ever from start to finish, or I should do a specific show, like every Great American Bash show, for 5 or 6, 7 straight weeks. Or I should do, start from the beginning, or do every Starrcade or whatever, and then go to other events. I'm not really sure, but yeah, I don't know too much about the WCW pay-per-views, but that's why I'm excited to find out when I watch them soon enough. Brandon A. from YouTube, his question was, in your opinion, if WWE booked everything perfectly from now until WrestleMania 34, who would be the champions on each show? Raw, SmackDown, and NXT at the end of WrestleMania weekend. This includes every championship, including the UK championship. I know this is a long question that probably requires a lot of thought, so you can wait until next week to answer it if you want. I'll provide backup question for this week if that's what you decide to do. I'm not going to do that. That's a lot of titles, dude. That's a lot of championships. And anything can happen. I honestly have no idea. I'm only thinking for the immediate future. Long term, I have no idea because so much can change. They bring in people all the time. They get rid of people all the time. People turn face and heel all the time. It's hard to perfectly book, 8 or 10 different divisions when you have the Universal title, IC Championship, Raw Women's, Cruiserweight, Raw Tag Team, SmackDown Tag Team, United States, WWE Championship, SmackDown Women's, did I say SmackDown? SmackDown Tag Team, whatever. That's 9 championships right there. Then you throw in NXT, UK, Tag Team, Women. That's 14 titles right there, dude. That's a lot of titles. So I'm not going to say every championship. I'm just going to say the main ones because you can't book perfectly what the tag teams are going to... I don't fucking care. We don't even have any tag teams. What do I know? What do I think is going to happen beyond... I don't even know what's going to happen next month. I imagine the New Day are going to win the SmackDown tag titles, and the Hardys are going to win back the belts on Sunday at Great Balls of Fire. But beyond that, I have no idea because we don't have many tag teams. Same thing with the women. Things change all the time. People can change shows. I'm not even going to bother wasting my time doing that. But I will say for the main championships, that we can book ahead of time for the most part. We still don't know what's going to happen. They change their minds like candy every single day. It's ridiculous. They change their minds more than the weather, Vince McMahon does. And I say they, I mean Vince McMahon. But for the main championships, for NXT, currently Bobby Roode is the champion. He won't be champion come WrestleMania next year. I can guarantee you of that. I think he faces Drew McIntyre at Brooklyn, and McIntyre wins the belt. And then, I don't know if McIntyre holds the championship until WrestleMania. Initially, I was thinking Johnny Gargano. That would be pretty cool. I just read something recently that said Tommaso Ciampa would be out until 2018 anyway. So, going back to Jeremy's question from a while ago, where he said Johnny Gargano could win the championship in the meantime, I didn't say it like at the Brooklyn show or November. I thought that was way too quick. But if you build him up between now and WrestleMania weekend next year, that could be a possibility. Like, not anytime soon, but over the next year, that could work. Over the next 9 to 10 months, that could very much work. But if it's not Johnny Gargano beating who I assume would be the champion by WrestleMania weekend by next year, Drew McIntyre, Adam Cole. I think Adam Cole is WWE bound very, very soon. Adam Cole beating McIntyre for the belt and being the new Bobby Roode top heel champion would be awesome. And then Bobby Roode could go to the main roster, taking over the spot that Roode previously occupied. So I'm going to say Cole as NXT champion. These are all bold predictions, so we'll look back on this 9 months from now and see if I'm right. But I predict by the end of WrestleMania 34 weekend next year, Adam Cole will be NXT champion. WWE champion Shinsuke Nakamura beating AJ Styles at WrestleMania. It's not that too bold of a prediction, but it's still who I got winning the belt at WrestleMania. Universal Championship is a bit harder. I think Roman Reigns will win it at some point between now and then. I would say Roman Reigns beats Brock, but I think they're kind of getting away from that plan. So I'm not going to say Roman. I'm going to say Finn Balor. I think Finn Balor, who has been absent from the championship picture for whatever reason. I mean, I know the reason, but he should be in it. And for storyline purposes, he never got his rematch for the title, one-on-one. So Balor should be in the title picture at some point. Him beating whoever the champion is at WrestleMania, whether it be Roman Reigns or Samoa Joe, if he gets a run with the belt, which would be amazing, or whoever. Balor finally coming full circle and winning the championship he never really technically lost would be great. So again, the 3 champions that I got by the end of WrestleMania weekend: NXT Adam Cole, Universal Finn Balor, WWE Shinsuke Nakamura. His next question: what are your top 2 favorite matches of the mid-year that happened in promotions other than WWE? Obviously you got to put Okada and Omega on there. I'm not huge into Japanese pro wrestling, but I will say the G1 special they put on Friday was great. I watched most of it. I watched, I think, the final 2 or 3 hours. I think I missed the first hour, first hour and a half, whatever. But it was a really, really good show from what I saw. But I still got to go Omega Okada, the second one. I think I enjoyed that match more than the first. It's hard to say. I like both matches very, very well, very much. But I think the second match was indeed better in retrospect. So I'll say that match. And also from Ring of Honor. There's a lot of great Ring of Honor matches from this year. But I will say the Young Bucks versus Hardy Boys match from WrestleMania weekend at Supercard of Honor. I don't think that match gets enough credit because people remember the Hardy Boys coming back at WrestleMania and how it was a foregone conclusion they were coming back at some point. But I think people tend to forget that literally the day before the Hardy Boys came back at WrestleMania, they were in another ladder match in Ring of Honor against the Young Bucks, which was killer. The match was incredible. So I really, really enjoyed that. Again, a lot of great matches this year from Ring of Honor and other promotions, but those are the top 2 I would say are my favorite. Omega Okada and Young Bucks and Hardy Boys from Ring of Honor, Supercard of Honor weekend from back in April. And his final question here: what is your favorite year from each era? The Golden Era, New Generation, Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression, PG, and New Era. Yes, you have to give a year from the Attitude Era, and since the New Era is only 2 years in, just give a favorite month. Happy 4th of July, or hope you had a happy 4th of July, depending on when you read this. Thank you, I appreciate that. For the eras, Golden Era, favorite, I mean, you should have given like a span here, because I'm not really sure what you classify as like the beginning and end of the Golden Era. But I'll say, if it counts, 1992. I know that's like Solomonster's favorite year too. But of that time period, I'm going to say 92 because the Rumble was great. WrestleMania was pretty good. SummerSlam was awesome. So I'm going to say 1992. A lot of great stuff happening that year. New Generation, 1996, when Shawn Michaels was on top. A lot of great wrestling that year. Really, really enjoyed 96, watching those pay-per-views back, including... Was Canadian Stampede? No, Canadian Stampede was 97, but I'm still going to say 96. So that 96 was a great year. Maybe not business-wise, but it was a great year in my opinion. Wrestling-wise, anyway. Attitude Era, undoubtedly 2000. 2000 was an amazing year. 2000 was a really, really, really good year. Again, maybe, I don't know, I've heard people say that it was an awful year, it sucked, but I don't know, seeing like the wrestling they had that year, and again, a lot like 92 and 96, the wrestling that year was great. So I'm going to say 2000 for Attitude Era. For Ruthless Aggression, when are we saying it ends here? Like, are we saying it ends at WrestleMania 21? That's what I've seen people say before. I'm kind of stuck between 2002 and 2005. I really, really, really love 02, but 05 was a great year as well. I'm going to say 02 just because a lot of stuff happened that year. It was a great year, a lot of great wrestling, a lot of great pay-per-views. The Rumble was great. WrestleMania was all right, but SummerSlam and Survivor Series were lit, dude. Survivor Series and SummerSlam were just incredible that year. So I'm going to say 02. PG era, again, not the best year, but I've said this before, one of my favorites. 2011, I would say 08, but I'm going to go 2011. That was my favorite year in wrestling for a long time. A lot of cool stuff happened that year that I have fond memories of. In New Era, again, I'm not sure when you say it starts, but in 2017 isn't over yet, so I'm just going to say, oh, you said the New Era is only 2 years in. I thought you were talking about the New Generation Era. Oh, okay, that's my bad. But yeah, New Era, I guess you could say 2015, 2016. You said it's 2 years in, so I'm going to say 2015. You're saying it starts in 2015. 2016. I mean, 2017's been a great year, too, for the most part. But I'm going to say 2016. I really, really enjoyed last year for all it had to offer, so... Again, 92, 96, 2000, 2002, 2011, and 2016. Elena the Y from YouTube. Let's see what we're doing on time here. How we're doing on time. 31 minutes. Okay, so might have to go a bit quicker. But Elena the Y from YouTube. Have you heard about the Fight Owens Fight, the Kevin Owens story documentary? It's reportedly already selling very well. Amazon has already sold out of copies ordered in advance, which has apparently not been the case since the rise and fall of ECW documentary in 2004. I didn't even know Amazon was around in 2004. But anyway, yeah, I did hear about that yesterday. That's awesome. It just came out yesterday. And I was thinking about getting it. And I was thinking about getting it online on Amazon. But I'm like, you know what? I could save money by just getting it like in person at Walmart. I was literally just at Walmart the other day with Jason. And I was like, I could have gotten it there. Like, they had the Seth Rollins documentary. They had all these other DVDs. They had the DDP documentary. But they didn't have the Kevin Owens documentary because they came out the next day. So it's like, damn it, I could have bought it then, but they didn't have it. So the next time I'm in Walmart or Target or whatever, I'll definitely get it. It's probably cheaper, unless you have like Amazon Prime, which I don't anymore. It's probably cheaper to get it in person than online. But it looks great. I know all the matches are on the network. I don't care about that. Like, the documentary itself looks awesome. And I've seen it online certain places where I could just see it for free. But I don't know, that's a DVD I would rather wait to see and buy it myself because I love KO, so. Yeah, I've heard it's done really well. I've heard nothing but good things about it, so I'm looking forward to getting it at some point in the near future. Deshaun K from Facebook, moving into the Facebook questions now. His questions included, how would you have booked Shinsuke Nakamura versus, Shinsuke Nakamura versus Sami Zayn Part 2 at SummerSlam, and would you have Nakamura win the Royal Rumble from a lower number or a higher number entry? So for the first part of the question, Nakamura Zayn at SummerSlam doesn't really make much sense. It seems like Zayn is starting a feud with Mike Kanellis and Nakamura is starting a feud with Baron Corbin. So to do one-and-done type matches for both feuds at Battleground, I almost like Great Balls of Fire, for Battleground, and then just moving to Nakamura Zayn at SummerSlam would kind of be a waste. I really hope they don't do Styles Nakamura at SummerSlam. Like, they should save that for WrestleMania. But no, Nakamura Zayn at this point in time doesn't make much sense for SummerSlam. Maybe at some point down the road, but not right now. I wouldn't hate it, but I just don't think the timing is right at this point in time. The second part of his question, Nakamura winning the Rumble from a lower number or higher number entry. I think people always will respect when you win the Rumble from a lower number entry, as opposed to coming in at number 30. Unless you're a surprise, I think people respect the fact that you're winning it from one of the early numbers and staying in till the very end, which hasn't happened in a very long time. So I'm going to say Nakamura's in there for a long time, starting out at like number 2 or number 5 or whatever, and or 3, 4, whatever. And then he wins it. And I think Nakamura, as I said earlier, Nakamura versus Styles for the WWE Championship would be a great SmackDown WWE Championship match for next year. His second question, how would you book Kenny Omega if he were to join the WWE? Happy Independence Day. To you as well, my friend. Kenny Omega, if he were to join the WWE, I think the best way to book him would again be would be to put him immediately with AJ Styles. And they don't really mention it too much on WWE TV, but if they could play off the fact that it was Kenny Omega who kicked AJ Styles out of the Bullet Club, that would be really, really cool. We still have yet to see anything from AJ Styles and Finn Balor. And it was AJ Styles who kicked Finn Balor out of the Bullet Club. So to have Styles confront Balor and say, I kicked you out of the Bullet Club, and then have Kenny Omega confront Styles and say, I kicked you out of the Bullet Club, would be an awesome dynamic. That would be freaking cool. But yeah, I think the first thing you would have to deal with them would be, I mean, not that they really care about storyline continuity from other promotions and shit, but it would be pretty cool if they had him immediately go after AJ Styles, or they did a thing with those two, and I think that'd be a great way to bring him in. That'd be an awesome way to make an impact by immediately putting him with a top name such as AJ Styles, and the fans seeing the type of matches they could have at the top of the card in either SmackDown or Raw. Mark S. from Facebook, first question, which match would you have main eventing Great Balls of Fire? Roman Reigns versus Braun Strowman, or Brock Lesnar versus Samoa Joe? Definitely Lesnar and Joe. Like, I'm looking forward to Strowman and Reigns, the ambulance match. I think it's going to be pretty good, honestly. All their matches have been good to great. But Lesnar and Joe is by far the match I've been most anticipating for a long time. Probably the most excited I've been for a match in a long-ass time, for a very, very, in a great while. It should be a great match. So I'm going to say Lesnar and Joe absolutely has to main event that show. That is the main selling point of the pay-per-view. But Strowman and Lesnar should be a good match in its own right. If you were to book a dream match involving Rowdy Roddy Piper against a member of the current WWE roster, who would you pit him against? You know, I've heard the comparisons. Miz even said it on Monday, Dean Ambrose. The current Dean Ambrose? Probably not. Dean Ambrose maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, probably. But even still, I mean, there's no one better, so I'm going to say Dean Ambrose. Maybe other than The Miz. That was before Dean Ambrose came around. That was like the big match. Like, I remember playing the WWE All-Stars video game, which was pretty underrated, by the way, about 5-6 years ago. And the dream match in that video game was The Miz versus Rowdy Roddy Piper. And like the gifts of gab and the stuff, the stuff they had in common. And that was really about it, that they were both great talkers. Piper's Pit, they had Miz TV. I mean, not at that point in time, but they do now, comparing the two. And they actually did do, I'm pretty sure they did Miz and Piper on an episode of Raw in like June of 2011. Of course, it lasted like 10 seconds, and Alex Riley cost Miz the match. But it did technically happen, but the current incarnation of Miz versus Rowdy Roddy Piper from like the late 80s would be awesome. But yeah, either Miz or Ambrose would be my pick against a returning Rowdy Roddy Piper if he were to come back from the dead. If not, of course, not the Roddy Piper that we had before he passed, but rather the Piper we had, like in the late 80s or so when he was at his peak, the prime of his career. His next question, what matches are you most interested in seeing from the undercard of Great Balls of Fire, apart from the main two mentioned above? Easily Sheamus and Cesaro versus the Hardy Boys. That should be awesome, the 30-minute Iron Man match. Sasha Banks and Alexa Bliss I'm also looking forward to. We haven't really seen too much of them against each other, and I think they could have a really, really good match on Sunday. And they've been protecting Banks. They haven't made her out to look like a loser like Bayley was a couple of months ago, so I'm glad they have yet to ruin her too. But I'm looking forward to that match. The tag team match especially. Reigns and Strowman, I said above, as I talked about earlier. The question from above. Akira Tozawa and Neville, I know it's on the Cruiserweight. I know it's on the kickoff show for the Cruiserweight Championship, but that should be a really, really good match if they have the time to, if they have the time, if they're given the time to do what they're capable of, it could be a really, really fun match. So yeah, I'm looking forward to those 3 matches, probably more than anything else. But the entire show should be good, though. I'm assuming. I'm expecting it to be, or maybe that's just the optimist in me. I guess we'll see. What is your opinion on the Ely brothers in NXT at the moment? Do you think they have the potential? Or could they be doing better or no? The Ely brothers, we haven't really seen too much of them to really form an opinion. I've heard, I don't know who it was, but someone in an interview is praising them as like people to watch in NXT. I don't remember, maybe it was, was it one half of the Rock and Roll, I don't remember. The Midnight Raw, I don't remember. Someone praised them, or Ricky Morton maybe, had said something. I think when he was teaching at the Performance Center, he said something about the Ely brothers, and he's obviously a very established tag team competitor, so he would know. Again, we haven't seen too much of them in NXT. They obviously are still very green. They have a good look. They're pretty generic at this point in time, but there could be something down the road if they're given more seasoning, and they're given more seasoning and more of a more characters, more personality, and we see what they're capable of in the ring, and they're given more experience inside the squared circle. Tyler L. from Facebook, do you think there's a specific time in a wrestler's career when they should be putting other guys over more than themselves? That's a very good question. Probably in the twilight of their career. I'm not going to say a certain age when you hit 40 you need to start putting people over. AJ Styles is 40 years old. He's not going to start putting people over at this point in time. I mean, like, more often than he should be winning himself because the guy's still a hot commodity. So I'm going to say just in the twilight of your career, like Chris Jericho does it right. He still will win a big match every once in a while, but by and large, he's putting people over. Before he left, in the most recent run that he had, he put over AJ Styles, Kevin Owens, Samoa Joe. He put over Sami Zayn at a few points. He put over a bunch of people. So Chris Jericho, but he also had his fair share of wins too. So Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins. Yeah, Chris Jericho is a prime example of a guy that knows to do it right. You should not be you should not be losing every single match, but you should be winning just enough to remain relevant and stay credible. So I think Chris Jericho is a great example of when to win and when not to win, and when to put other people over. But I would say, in general, the twilight of your career, whatever that might mean to them, like the final few years of their career, and they're not as big of a focal point on Raw or SmackDown or programming, whatever, that's when they should be putting other people over on their way out. Jeremy B. from Facebook, do you think they should do Roman Reigns versus John Cena for the Universal title to cater to casuals, and AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura to cater to hardcore fans at WrestleMania? I definitely saw you tweet about that, and I love the idea. I think I even mentioned that here on the show, and credited you for it, because I like the idea a lot. Roman Reigns and Cena brings in the casual fans. Like, that's probably two biggest names in the roster right now. Of like the full, I mean, I guess John Cena is not even really a full-timer anymore, but you know what I mean. If it's not Reigns and Lesnar, Reigns and Cena is the next biggest match you could do. And Styles and Nakamura is that hardcore, fan dream match. And I think even casual fans would like to see that too. And I think even Roman Reigns and Cena, hardcore fans would want to see that. I would like to see that. It's a fresh match, and they've been going back and forth on Twitter. I think it could be really interesting to see the dynamic there. And I think Cena would be cheered over Reigns, which would be interesting. But I like both matches for WrestleMania next year. If they do Roman and Lesnar ahead of time, and they just do Reigns and Cena at WrestleMania, again, for the Universal title, I could do without it, but it doesn't need the championship, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. And Styles and Nakamura, like I said earlier, for the WWE Championship makes a perfect amount of sense to me. So yeah, I like the idea of doing both matches and getting the best of both worlds at WrestleMania this year, or next year, whatever. At Rusty Rages from Twitter, what sense does it make to bring Rusev back just to have him lose in a flag versus flag match against John Cena? Yeah, I kind of hate the fact, I liked their back and forth last night. It was very 4th of July-ish, which makes sense, I guess. And I liked the verbal exchange they had. But I'm not a fan of bringing back Rusev only to put him in a feud with John Cena. We literally just saw this 2 years ago. Yes, they have good matches together, but Rusev's not going to win. He's merely a stepping stone for John Cena en route to the WWE Championship at SummerSlam, I would assume. So I think that's just dumb. It's fine for John Cena, not so much for Rusev. I'm not really a big fan of that. I'm not really sure what plans they have for Rusev or why it took so long to bring him back. But it doesn't make much sense at all. They really just want something for Cena to do at Battleground, but I guess they don't have many other heels they could do that with at the moment. But yeah, Rusev and Cena again is whatever as it is. But having Rusev lose, it's like, the guy just came back. Like, people like the guy. Like, turn him babyface or something. I don't know. Or at least have him address the fact he wanted the championship match. We never got the storyline explanation for that when he just disappeared. But whatever. His next question, can Lana ever be taken seriously, if she ever was in the first place, after being beaten by Naomi 3 straight times? No, she can't. I wrote a whole article about this on Sunday. Lana, at this point, the experiment is over. I don't know what they're doing with Tamina, and I don't really care. Tamina sucks, too. She's probably better than Lana, in the ring anyway, which is not saying much. But Lana got beat decisively 3 straight times. After Money in the Bank, I'm thinking, okay, that was a little weird, but they could still salvage her. Then she lost in a minute last Tuesday. I'm thinking, okay, she's pretty much done at this point. And this Tuesday's loss was the final nail in the coffin. If they wanted to protect her, make her credible, then they would have had her put up a stronger showing. She literally lost in like 5 seconds on Tuesday. That's ridiculous. Not that I really care, because she sucks, and not that she really was much of a threat to begin with in the division. But yeah, at this point, she can't be taken seriously. Like, if they want to continue the feud and do Naomi and Lana, I don't care. We've seen the match literally 3 times. It shouldn't have happened a second time, let alone a third time. So, yeah, at this point, Lana cannot be taken seriously. She's going to need a lot of rehabbing, be built back up from the ground up. Because right now, it's just not working. Having her lose 3 straight times pretty much establishes her as a loser. It's just not going to work. Next question of his, will Samoa Joe beat Brock Lesnar so this feud is not a one-off and it goes to SummerSlam? No. I doubt Samoa Joe wins. I would love for him to win, quite honestly. I know like a month ago we were all like joking, like, oh, Joe, it's great we're getting the match, but we all know Lesnar's winning. I think there's a better chance now than there was then of Joe winning the title, just because merely due to the fact that Joe now is a lot hotter now than he was even a month ago, which is saying something because he was on a roll before the Extreme Rules pay-per-view. But this feud has been incredible. Like, it's been red hot since it started over a month ago. So, again, because it's not a, I would hope it's not a one-off. You can even have Lesnar win and still do more matches. But yeah, it would be cool if, if Joe won and we get a rematch at SummerSlam. I like that a lot better than doing Reigns and Lesnar at SummerSlam. Or even Strowman and Lesnar. I mean, that's a great match. It should be a great match. It should happen at some point. But I'll take Joe and Lesnar part 2 over that just because this feud has been so great. I would love to see it continue through SummerSlam. So yes, Joe beating Lesnar would be a hell of a way to shake things up because they really need that right now. They really want to shake up the Raw landscape and the formulaic nature of the show. They would have Joe beat Lesnar, but it's just not going to happen. They're going to save that spot for Roman Reigns. How will WWE keep both Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman strong in the ambulance match? I mean, well, for one thing, they're not going to be pinned, so they're going to be protected that way. The ambulance match should be good, but I assume Strowman wins. I could see Roman winning. I've heard that's the plan, honestly. I still think Strowman wins, but I could see Roman winning to set him up for the championship match at SummerSlam, which would just be dumb. I don't really care. I think Strowman should win on Sunday. I know he wouldn't be pinned, but still. I really do think that Strowman should win the match. Face Lesnar either at SummerSlam at some point down the road. Having him lose here when he's at the peak of his heel, push would just be dumb. But I could see them very well having Roman go over. But, yeah, I mean, they're going to keep them strong by having, if they're going to have Roman win, they're going to have Strowman kill Roman for 95% of the match, and then have Roman come back, throw him in the ambulance on a fluke victory and win. That's what they're going to do, probably. I assume that's what they're going to do, or it could be a shot. I still think Strowman wins, but I could very well see them doing that if Roman was to win the match on Sunday. So, but, yeah, that's how they would keep him strong. I mean, if Strowman wins, they're going to have Roman put up a hell of a fight only to lose at the last possible second. So, again, that's how they're going to keep them strong. There's better ways, there's easier ways to protect people in a match where there's no submissions or pinfalls. And they already had Roman lose clean to Braun anyway at Extreme Rules, or Payback anyway, a few months ago. So it wouldn't, they already had him beat him, so it's not that big of a deal if he was to beat him again, this time without pinfalls. And his last question here, have Enzo and Cass done enough throughout their feud to get you to care about their match on Sunday? Honestly, they have. I'm actually kind of shocked. I still say they shouldn't have split up. The promo a few weeks ago, like the split itself was well done. I thought they both cut good promos. It was predictable as all hell, but it was well done. The promo last week, despite the fact that Enzo looked like an idiot, I thought was good. The promos from both guys, specifically Enzo, was really, really good. And the promo this week from Enzo, I thought was the greatest promo he's ever cut in his entire career. So again, Big Cass came off great, and I thought the brawl was well done. So yeah, they have done enough in 3 weeks to get me to care about their match coming up at the pay-per-view. So I thought that was very well done. I'm not like, oh my god, I can't wait, but I'm looking forward to the match much more now than I was 2 weeks ago or even a week ago. So yeah, props to them for making me care. At E138 from Twitter, have you seen this picture of the 2003 WWE.com or from WWE.com in 2003, excuse me, guessing who Mr. America is? It was basically a picture of Hulk Hogan as Mr. America, and the website saying that it was not Hulk Hogan, and they had other shots, they had other choices of who they thought it could be, from Mark Henry, Mr. Fuji, the Bastion Booger, and Doink the Clown, so I thought that was funny. Good Independence Day theme question. At RJ_Marceau, his first question, thoughts on Naomi's glow belt? I think it looks awesome. It looks lit, pun intended. That's really, really cool. I was saying on Twitter why it took 3 months to get the belt to glow, but even still, it looks awesome. I'm not sure why it took so long. I know Naomi said in Talking Smack that it was a long process. That probably was what it had to do with. But yeah, no, it looks like a great visual. It's very cool. It separates her from everyone else on the roster, from every other champion on the show, which is awesome. So yeah, I think it looks really, really cool. His next question, when do you think Carmella will cash in? That's a good question. I'm not really sure. I mean, I know they're already teasing Naomi and Carmella, so probably once Naomi's done with Tamina. I could see her cashing in after Summer. I could see her cashing in after Battleground, but I would wait a little longer. I would do Becky Lynch and Carmella in the meantime as like a mini feud, and then have Carmella win that. I guess you could have Becky win because their thought process is, oh, well, Miss Money in the Bank's going to win the belt anyway, so why even bother having her win? So whatever. I don't agree with that. That's their mindset. It's always been that way. It's always going to be that way. But yeah, I would have her cash in probably right after SummerSlam. And Naomi's done with whoever, whether it be Natalya or Tamina or whoever else is on the roster. And Carmella's done with Becky Lynch. It would be cool, actually, if Carmella cashed in before James Ellsworth came back and proved that she doesn't need him. That would be really cool. So that would probably mean it's going to be a Battleground, which I wouldn't be opposed to. And then he comes back and she says, I don't really need you anymore. I won the championship on my own. Get the hell out of here. Enter Big Cass if you want. I don't know how you would explain him jumping from Raw to SmackDown, but I guess you could if you wanted to. Big Cass beats the shit out of James Ellsworth because they are a legitimate couple in real life. They would have great chemistry. They would have great chemistry as an on-air heel duo. I've said that before. So yeah, that's how I would do it. But yeah, either Carmella cashes in at Battleground or SummerSlam. I think they're pretty much very much heavily promoting the Naomi Carmella feud. So I would have her cash in at some point in the very near future. Maybe not 100% ready, but she's getting the heel she's getting the heel heat she needs, and she's getting better as a character. So yeah, I would do it. I wouldn't wait too much longer beyond SummerSlam. I'll say that much. At Bradford R with the final 3 questions here. Wait, have we already gone through all 3 pages worth of questions? Have we? Shit, I guess we have. God damn. We went by pretty quick this week. So yeah, final 3 questions from at Bradford R. First one being, why have WWE failed to learn from their mistake at WrestleMania and relegating the Cruiserweight title match to the kickoff show? Yeah, I was kind of disappointed by that. I mean, I thought we would get R-Truth and Gold. I guess we still could. I thought we would get R-Truth and Goldust on the kickoff show. If they put that on the main show over the Cruiserweight title match, I mean, again, the feud's been well done. The match won't be anything special. So I really hope they don't do that. I'd much rather see that match was made for the kickoff show. That would be perfect for the kickoff show at Great Balls of Fire than the main show. The Cruiserweight title match has been very well built between Neville and Akira Tozawa and Titus O'Neil and everything else going on. That deserved to be in the main show, but whatever. I could have even seen them doing like Bayley and Nia Jax in the kickoff show after what we saw on Monday between the two. But yeah, just that's WWE for you, I guess. But yeah, they're gonna have a great match regardless. It might be for the better. Like you said, why didn't they not learn from their mistake at WrestleMania? Austin Aries and I still say the best match that Neville and Aries had was at WrestleMania. Again, maybe I'm biased because I was there, but they were given a lot of time on the kickoff show, which was great. I mean, again, it was a 2-hour kickoff show. I doubt Tozawa and Neville get 20 minutes on Sunday, but they should, because if they did, they'd have a great match, and they could still have a good match, but I really wish they would let them just go all out and do everything they have the potential to do and what they're capable of, and by that point, they're not limiting them, and they're not being limited, and they're not limited in terms of what they can do and whatnot, and they can have an awesome match. So we'll see if it works out for the better or for worse. I guess, like you said, why didn't they learn from their mistake? Because Neville and Aries kind of stole the show. It wasn't the best match of the entire show, I would say, but it was pretty close. It was a great match. And I know people are going to argue, well, it took away from every match that followed, blah, blah, blah. I get that, but regardless, it's good for the Cruiserweights to get more time. So if they get more time in the kickoff show than they would in the main card, more power to them. Who needs to win more at Great Balls of Fire, Seth Rollins or Bray Wyatt? This is the one feud right now I just do not care about. Like, at this point in time, it doesn't matter. It really does not matter. Because we have been conditioned to see, or conditioned, as Matt Hardy would say, broken Matt Hardy would say, that, to see Bray Wyatt win a match every now and again. He beat Orton randomly at No Mercy last year. But then he goes on to lose every other match after that. He'll beat Randy Orton at Payback, but then he'll lose the next 2 or 3 pay-per-view matches he has. The guy's a loser. Seth Rollins, he doesn't really need the victory. He's going to be popular. He's going to be credible no matter what. So I'm going to say Bray Wyatt needs the victory more. But we all know Rollins will get his win back at SummerSlam anyway. So again, who the hell cares? It's not even like the feud's been any good. The feud sucked. It's been boring. Maybe not sucked. The Orton feud sucked. The Orton-Wyatt feud was atrocious. This feud, there is just no substance. There's no anything. It's just not interesting at all. It's a fresh match. It's a fresh feud. We saw it only one other time, the match, that is, on an episode of Raw in May. But there was just nothing going there. It's just, we all know Wyatt's going to speak all this mumbo-jumbo about God knows what. And then he'll lose in the end when it matters most. That's just the recurring pattern with Bray Wyatt and when no one cares about him anymore. Turning him face. I'm not even sure if that could salvage him at this point in time. It's worth a shot. But Raw doesn't need more baby faces right now. They need more credible heels. And that's exactly what Bray Wyatt is not at the moment. So I'm going to say Bray Wyatt needs the victory more, but at this point, does it even really matter? It's really just to get both guys in the card. I mean, a Wyatt-Balor feud at least would have made sense with what they teased a few months ago. At this point in time, Rollins and Balor, or Rollins and Bray Wyatt, they just wanted to get Rollins on the show with a heel. They put together the feud, and that's it. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier in regards to WWE not being creative enough to create compelling feuds. And they're just putting two people together for the sake of putting them together just to get them on the show. And there's no real reason or rhyme or reason as to why they're feuding to begin with. So, again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier in a feud that I just do not care about at all. And the build-up has been very, very flat. Last question here from @BradBernard. What do you think you would have said at this time last year if someone told you that in a year's time the Hardy Boys would be facing off against Sheamus and Cesaro in a 30-minute Iron Man match for the tag team titles at a pay-per-view called Great Balls of Fire? I probably would have told them to get off the meth and to go back to playing their WWE Universe mode in WWE 2K16 or whatever. Because that's exactly the only place that you would have been able to see a match like this. I don't think with the Great Balls of Fire name, I think that alone would have thrown me off. Like, okay, I could believe maybe the first 3 parts of that question. The pay-per-view part, probably not so much. I would have laughed in your face and said, why would they ever call a pay-per-view Great Balls of Fire? But here we are in July of 2017, and we have a pay-per-view coming up on Sunday called Great Balls of Fire. That's where the wrestling world has come to. But nevertheless, it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. The matches they've had, the first match of Payback, the 2 out of 3 count falls on Raw, the steel cage match, they were all very, very good. Good to great. And I think this match will undoubtedly be the best of the bunch. Especially, I'm not even going to say given the time because they have the time. They have 30 minutes. So it should be really, really good. But yeah, if you told me that a year ago, I would have called you crazy. Sheamus and Cesaro I could have bought as a tag team just because they were doing nothing this time a year ago. The Iron Man thing, don't know if I would have bought that because we have not seen a male Iron Man match since 2009 in WWE. We've had 2 with the women, one at TakeOver Respect in 2015 with Bayley and Banks, and then one again of the women with Banks and Charlotte at Roadblock late last year. Well, we have not had one of the men, let alone a tag team Iron Man match. I don't think which we've ever had in WWE. At least a formal. I know we've had like one 15 minutes of Fame challenge with Miz and Morrison, which doesn't really count. But yeah, we had that one like about 10 years ago or so, or 10 years or so ago. But beyond that, we've never really had a formal Iron Man tag team match, which is great. So the Iron Man tag team match should be awesome. It sounds, like a dream match on paper. Not a dream match, but very far-fetched. It sounds like something you would do in a video game, like in Universe mode or in GM mode or whatever. And we're getting that on Sunday at Great Balls of Fire. So I'm looking forward to it. The entire show should be good. So we'll talk all about that show next Wednesday right here on the show on #AskGSM. In the meantime, and in between time, guys, send in your questions for next week's show starting right now or after the pay-per-view or next Tuesday, whatever. The deadline for questions is usually, like Wednesday around 10 or 11 because that's when I record. That's when I'm recording right now. So just keep that in mind for future episodes. But regardless, guys, send in your questions to me by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not the wall itself. And of course, drop your comment/question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. So that being said, guys, enjoy the pay-per-view on Sunday. I will be able to watch live. I'm not working that night. I'm working that day, which is awesome. Trying to see if I can work something out with John where we could watch it together on Sunday night, similar to Extreme Rules. So maybe we have a few questions with John on Monday because I'm not working on Monday, which is awesome. So looking forward to watching the show on Sunday night. Should be great. But regardless, guys, enjoy the rest of your week. Have an awesome weekend. Hope you had an awesome Independence Day on Tuesday. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.